Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to update you on what I've been reading over pretty much the last 6 months. I hit my target on Goodreads for last year. So last year, I've got my book journal here with me and I will talk about that a little bit as well. So my achievement last year was 30 books and I actually read 35 books, so I smashed that. My total wasn't as high as previous years, and I think I might have even, I don't know if I even lowered my target at some point in the year. I'm not sure, I don't think I did. This year my target, I think I've set it for 35. Yeah, 35, so I can sort of push myself against last year. The book journal I used last year and this year is this one. It's by Martha Brooke. You can get it either directly from the website or you can get it on, like, not on the high street, and you can get them personalised. So this year I just had the year put on it, whereas last year I had my own initials, just so I can distinguish from year to year. But I really enjoyed the layout of this last year. I like the colours of this, so yeah, we're just going to continue like that. And I like journaling it as much as I still do Goodreads, and that's obviously the best place if you want to see sort of like day-to-day updates on how I'm doing, what I'm currently reading. My Goodreads is always linked down below, so if you want to check that out, go have a look. But yeah, I thought I'd just go through some books that I really liked, but also a few books that kind of fell flat for me. And yeah, just run through what I've been reading. So let's jump in because there's a lot of books. So the first 3 books I'm going to sort of accumulate and talk about is the Murder, She Wrote books. I love these. I have them for a few years now. They're quite hard to come by in the UK. You can get them on Amazon and eBay. I think you might be able to get them on Waterstones. Only place I have found that do these in person is the Waterstones on Piccadilly. There may be other Waterstones in London that do them, but the one with the biggest amount of variety is that one, and for very good reason because it is a massive store. So I've read these 3 over the last few months. The first one I think I read was this one, which is The Murder of 12, and if you don't know, Murder, She Wrote is based off of the TV series, which I've started to get into as well, and watching those programmes. I just they give me those sort of cozy feelings. Nothing is too sort of like gruesome with the murders, you know. It's all like quite light-hearted as a murder mystery goes. So I read this one and I think I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and this was one of the best Murder, She Wrote that I've read. It is that typical trope of a group of people stuck in a snowed-in sort of cabin in mountains and no one can come and rescue them. There's supposed to be a wedding taking place and Jessica just happens to be staying in this hotel, and the start of at the start of the book, obviously, the wedding, bride and groom go missing, and then a couple of people die throughout the book, and it starts to give that sort of "and then there were none" feeling by Agatha Christie, which they do mention in this book. Yeah, I loved the cover of it. I just like that cozy feeling. I love that sort of trope being set in the cold and isolation. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and if you're looking for something maybe to start into Murder, She Wrote, then I would suggest this one. The second one I then read was this one, which is A Fatal Feast. I read this when we went away to Hay-on-Wye, which is a little book town in the UK. We went in November. We did a vlog about it, so if you love books, bookshops, that is the video for you, and I'll link it in a card. But I read this, and this is sort of set around autumn and fall, and specifically Thanksgiving. Again, someone gets murdered, but again, this was a really cozy one. This one is set within Cabot Cove, which I like. I feel like there's not enough of Cabot Cove in the TV series. I only gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, possibly because I had literally just read this one and this was 5 stars, so that might be why. And then the book I've literally just finished is A Time for Murder. This one I really enjoyed. I'm pretty sure I gave this one 5 stars. Yes, so this is kind of set across 2 time periods. Jessica in the present day, and she finds out that there's been a murder, but the person that's being murdered is the daughter of the high school headmaster she used to work for back in the day, about 20 years ago, who also got murdered, and his murder was her first ever sort of murder case that she jumped on. So it flips between the two time periods, and obviously the connection between the two victims, and yeah, so you're basically uncovering two murders. So there's a lot to like get your head around, but I didn't find it sort of overwhelming. You could definitely still follow along with it. And yeah, again, there were twists and turns, and I just think these are super easy. Not to mention they're really small and easy to put in like a smaller bag, so if you're travelling. So those are some of my favourites, and I'm probably up to like 7 or 8 of the murder she wrote that I've read so far. I do have a few more. Little sneak peek. I just got this one, a Low Harbour Trade. This is one of the hardbacks. I'm not as thrilled, but what else? The next thing I read, The Apollo Murders by Chris Hadfield. This is a signed copy. I've had this for quite a while, so I was pleased to get through it because it did take me a particularly long time. Let me see. I don't know if I've read this year. Yes, this was the first book I read this year, actually. So let me get to it. I gave this 4 stars. So this is written by the astronaut Chris Hadfield, and it's a fictional book, and it's based on sort of NASA trying to send people back to the moon, and again their fight against Russia to get there. And in the process of them training to send someone to the moon, one of the cosmonauts actually ends up being killed in training, and you can sort of air the suspicions that it's not an accident, that it is murder, hence the Apollo murders. And yeah, as they get up into space, there are even more murders and more revelations, people not who they say they are, people batting for the other side, and by that I mean the Russians. So yeah, there was a lot of twists and turns, a lot of grittiness to sort of get into. I really enjoyed this. The ending kind of, I had to reread it a couple of times. I'm one of those people where I'm like so excited that I'm near the end of the book that I kind of end up skim reading it a little bit, and not probably taking in as much as I should. But so I reread the end a couple of times, and I was slightly disappointed that certain people weren't sort of held more accountable for their actions. It felt like they kind of got away with it in their circumstances, and I would have liked the end to be explored a little bit more. And I find, like, especially it's such a meaty, heavy book, you kind of get that sense of disappointment at the end when it doesn't sort of live up to all of the rest of the book. And for me, this really didn't get going until they got into space. Like, it was, for me, it was a slow burner until then, and then I was quite invested in it from about halfway on. So yeah, he has got another book, I think, but it's more set around planes and like the aviation side of the army, I guess. I don't think I would pick that up. I then have 2 sort of international books to talk about. So the first one is Before Your Memory Fades. I won't pronounce the authors because I will butcher it, but this is from the author that did Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Oh, there's a bookmark in here still. That's always fun. I find these everywhere. So yes, this is I think the 3rd or 4th book, and I always wait until they come out in paperback because I just prefer to have them all look the same, and yeah, the covers are really nice. So I think this is the 3rd one, and I'm waiting for the 4th one, which I think is the pink one, to go into paperback. But these are very much like the first 2 books, in the sense that people go to this coffee shop to meet people, either in the future or the past. There's certain rules, like you can only meet people that have ever actually gone into that coffee shop. You can't sort of go out and travel around. And the main thing is you only have as much time as the coffee is hot. Once the coffee goes cold, you go back to present day. So I read this towards the end of last year, and I liked it. I think because I'm so sort of used to how this is laid out, it's kind of becomes slightly predictable in the sense of the storylines. The storylines are all very much individual. All the characters interlink between the books and the series. I gave this one 3 stars, so it has gone down a little bit, I guess, from the first book. I think I probably gave that 5 stars. Yeah, I would still pick up the last one because I do like the premise of it. I think it's a really unique idea. And then the other international one I read was this one, which is Welcome to the Honamdong Bookshop, which apparently is a runaway Korean sensation. There was another sort of, I think like a Korean or a Japanese bookshop book that I was looking for, but I picked this one up instead. And it is about a young woman who sets up a bookshop, and how she interacts with the different people that work for her, the different people that come into the shop. And yeah, I did like it. Let me see what I gave this. I gave this 3 stars. Let me see what I said about it, because I can't remember completely. So I put a calm and simple book set in Korea, where a young woman has fulfilled her dream to open a bookshop. It explores how books and writing have an effect on people, and it follows the owner as she interacts with her employee, visitors and writers. And I wanted to really enjoy this book, but the over-analysing of writing and how to write was a bit too much, and I would have liked to have read more on like the simpler tasks of like how she ran her bookshop. So that was my note on it. I still think it was a really nice book, but it focused too much on like analysing writing and that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that the front cover's cute and it gives you that cozy feel. Also, this bookshop, like when you like read it, the bookshop is far bigger than what this picture suggests. So that kind of threw me, because I very much, if I see a visual, like a picture, then that sort of sets up my world building. But anyway, let's go on to some autobiographies, shall we? So I've got 3 here. The first one was Stolen Youth. This is 5 women's survival in the Holocaust. I picked this up in Israel when we went to Yad Vashem. And it is what it says. It's 5 different stories of young girls who grow into young women, and their time through the Holocaust. I won't go into too much about it, because obviously each story is very individual. But it talks about, but I mainly picked up because I was really interested to see how these women, even being sort of across the same ages, they had such different experiences. And it gives you quite a broad overview. If you're looking for something maybe to start getting into reading about stories of the Holocaust, or if you're looking for something written by women, then this I would say is a good book to start with. The chapters are quite short. There's some pictures in there as well, which I think is always nice to really see the people behind the words. It's weird to say, you know, I enjoyed this book when it's set about such dark events, but it was one that I'll definitely keep in my collection. The next book I read was A Child Alone by Martha Blend. She is actually a couple times over cousin of mine, so on my grandpa's side, and the book is actually dedicated to my grandparents, which was really sweet. Especially since like my grandmother's no longer with us. This follows how Martha was sent away by her parents sort of around the age of 9 from Austria, and she comes to the UK on the kinder transport, and how she stays with a Polish couple who take her in. And for me, I've actually never read any Holocaust books by anyone who's come to the UK on kinder transport. I've read quite a lot of Holocaust stories, but a lot of them are mainly set around actual concentration camps. So this was really interesting, not only obviously as a family interest, but just that experience that I've never read of before, and how she dealt with sort of growing up through her early teens in a completely different country, and you know how she developed in her life, being away from her parents and her family. So that premise alone, I would really recommend this book just based on that if you've not read something about the kinder transport. It also made me sort of think of my own grandpa, because he was sent away during the war to Norfolk, I believe, as an evacuee. So it kind of gave me, like, he's always talked very fondly about his time in Norfolk, and I think he had quite a pleasant experience, but it's hard to think like what it must be like as a young child to be sent away from your parents and all that you've known, and just be thrust in the hands of another family. So yeah, that was interesting to sort of read that perspective. And then the other autobiography that I've literally just finished as well is Being Henry, The Fonz and Beyond. So this is by Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz in Happy Days. This is also a signed copy. I love my signed editions, and I love Happy Days. I'm a massive fan. I love Henry Winkler. I've always thought he's done really great things for people with dyslexia. My husband's dyslexic, and it was just so interesting to read behind the man that created the Fonz. I didn't know that he was born in Germany and came across as a young child with his parents and his sister. The rest of his extended family were killed in the Holocaust, so they managed to get away to New York, and it showed about his time navigating New York as a young child that maybe stands out from the norm. And then how he ended up getting into acting, obviously with his dyslexia, wasn't sort of diagnosed at the time, and it wasn't for him until I think he was in his 30s. And so it was interesting to see how he got the part of Fonz, how he sort of ad-libbed a lot of it, and navigated through his acting career, making it big in Hollywood or not making it quite as big, and the struggles going through trying to survive and coming off the bat of Happy Days, you know, set up so big with this big character, and then it's like you're kind of typecasted from that. So that was interesting to read about. All these books I feel like I should have done full book reviews on, because there's a lot I want to talk about, but I feel like this is kind of better. You get a little feel of everything. So yeah, I absolutely love Henry Winkler as a character, and yeah, this was really interesting for me to also read about what he did after Happy Days, because that's all I know him for. I know his books, but aside from that, I don't know acting wise what else he did. I mean, he started off with a little side part in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He did a few sort of films, he did Scream. So yeah, it was cool to sort of see what else he'd done. I've read quite a few children's books over the last 6 months. I've read some of the other Mary Poppins books, so I've just got the 4th and the 5th left. I've also, they're up somewhere, oh they're here. I have been reading a few of the Happy Days books as well, speaking of the Fonz, and I've got a couple of those left to read. So yeah, my reading's been really quite varied, but I find children's books are really nice as like a little palette cleanser, and help me also to get, like, if I've not been reading for a while, it helps me to boost up my my reading. So I've read Eloise. I do have another book of this somewhere. I don't know where I've put it, but it was like a hardback, and it had all 4 of Kay Thompson's books. So Eloise, Eloise at Christmas, Eloise in Paris, and Eloise in Moscow. Obviously Eloise, the first book, is my favourite, closely followed by the Christmas one. I do really like that. The illustrations are really sweet, and I kind of know of Eloise the book from Eloise the film. That's one of my favourite films, especially the Christmas one. And yeah, so I've got these on Vinted. I like this and the Christmas one, the other two not so much, but I think these are really cute books, obviously to read with children as well. So they were like my palette cleansers. One book, just because I've got it here, that I really didn't like was Lessons in Chemistry, which I was really surprised about. This is a signed copy as well, so I feel bad that I'm going to have to like give it away or sell it on Vinted, but I just didn't, it didn't live up to the hype for me. I didn't gel with the main characters. I didn't like how she was, like, I know it's realistic and it's real world, but I didn't like how she was treated by men and perceived in her industry. Like, it just made me feel uncomfortable at some of the things that went on. There's a lot of like, there's some trigger warnings in there. Yeah, so for me, I didn't like it. Obviously there's an Apple TV show, so you might want to watch that, but for me, I'm sort of glad I read this so I don't invest in the TV show, although that might be better, I don't know, but yeah, for me, just, it was a shame because I had heard so many good things, and from people close around me as well. The last book I'm going to talk about is The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett. I've read The Appeal, which is sort of the first book I think that she wrote, and then this is kind of like a Christmas novella style. Same principle though, it's based around the same small drama group in this like small village, and they're putting on their Christmas play, and obviously a murder takes place. There is a body out of the Jack and the Beanstalk tree, and I really enjoy how these are written out. It's very much all through conversation, through the characters, in the sense of like text messages and emails, so it's really easy to fly through and read, and yeah, just kept me gripped. I was chuckling through this. I was like, I could predict a few things, but it still had a twist and a turn at the end. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I have really recommended this to a few people. I just think this and the first, like the Appeal book, just really good. I think I might have one of her other books, which is like a completely different sort of set of characters from this. So I might try and read that at some point in the next couple of months. Here's Dr. Wu. Here's my little reading companion, her Winnie. I'm going to do a little 2-year update of Winnie because she's just turned 2. Queen of the Sheep. Oh, she's going now. Bye. So yeah, that is all that I've pretty much been reading over the last few months. I've got quite a heavy TBR pile next to me. It's quite varied, but I really need to narrow it down. I've been trying not to buy books, and if I am, it's just on Vinted, and it's mainly been when I've spotted some like Murder She Wrote books. Obviously we went to Hay on Wye. Let me try and give you a little sneaky peek of some of the stuff on my TBR, as you can see, and it like curls down here. Ignore the mess on top, that is my pins, but yeah, that is my series there. So if there's something you spot and you think I should read, let me know. I hope you enjoyed seeing this video, seeing what I've been reading. If something has piqued your interest and you think you might want to try it, let me know down below, and also let me know what you've been reading, if you've got any recommendations you think I might like, and I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.